I'm faced with this could be the end of my life. Am I satisfied with what I've done? Did I love enough? Did I adequately express myself? For me, when I look in the eyes of another living thing, I see so much common ground. If you spend enough time observing an animal, you're going to gain something. You're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to come away with something that might surprise you. Life is going to lead you places that you don't anticipate, you don't plan, maybe you don't want to go. But if you have faith in the road in front of you, and if you have that strength within you to take on what's ahead, it's going to be okay. I'm Adam Pankratz. I'm a painter working with acrylic paints, and this is The Layered Onion. It was never a question for me like how I wanted to portray animals. Like since before I started painting, I always knew that the presentation that I would do would be looking at their facial features. I think with being a zookeeper, one of the things you get to experience that not a lot of people have the opportunity to experience is you get very up close and personal, and you get to know exotic animals from all over the world in a way that is not very typical. And when you look closely at an animal, there's just so much detail. There's so many exquisite features that there's just so much personality that you see when you look close. That was what I wanted to bring forward and show in a very up close and personal style. Yeah, I mean, I think when you look in the eyes of an animal, and different types of animals are going to look back at you differently. Some don't want to look at you. Some you can get a very piercing gaze. For me, when I look in the eyes of another living thing, I see so much common ground. If you spend enough time observing an animal, you're going to gain something. You're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to come away with something that might surprise you, or might bring you to tears, or it'll give you something that maybe you didn't expect, even if it's just watching the same bird come to a bird feeder over and over again. Like, you develop a bond that gives you something, and whatever it is that it gives you is different depending on the animal, or depending on who you are as a person and what you're bringing to that encounter. There were things about being a zookeeper that I loved, and there were things that I really struggled with. I think there's a lot of ethical questions about the way we house animals in a captive environment. I think there are certain species of animals that don't belong in captivity whatsoever. And zoos have come a long, long way just in the last 25 years in terms of quality of life and husbandry practices. But there's still, for many animal species, a ways to go. And like I said, there's some species that I don't think belong in captivity. And so I knew my time had run out in that world. I was living in Chicago. I worked at the Lincoln Park Zoo. And what really started my creative path was the musical Hamilton became real big while I was working as a zookeeper. And I had a friend who wasn't working in anything creative, but similarly, like, I used to draw a lot as a kid, and he used to write a lot when he was a kid, and we had both kind of gotten away from those things. And Hamilton just kind of lit a fire in us, where together we sort of decided to examine if there was a creative thread within ourselves that we could pull at and just see what happens. And so I picked up my colored pencils, and he picked up his pen, and we both kind of took off with it. So that bear piece, my ancestry is Eastern European, mostly Poland and Lithuania on my mom's side, and then Poland and what is now the Czech Republic and southern Germany on my dad's side. And I grew up with my mom painting eggs for Easter as a big part of the Easter cultural heritage of my ancestry. And So one of the themes in that bear piece is when you're painting an Easter egg, it's a lot about flow and about form and about a meditative practice. And you're not in your head so much. You're just kind of doing the strokes in a repetitive way, creating a pattern. And I think there's something so transcendent and beautiful in that. Like, pattern is everything in the world. Everything has some sort of flow or rhythm or pattern to it. And I wanted to bring that forward in this piece. And the bear, I chose the bear because I think the bear is a perfect symbol for like grounding and connection to the earth. Like when it gets cold, when food is scarce, the bear sleeps because that's the best way for it to survive in the world. It's very connected with the rhythms of the earth. And separately, it's not so much a thing anymore, but I grew up, as many kids did, having a teddy bear. And like my son, he has a lemur, a salamander, like you can get any animal today. So it's like the teddy bear thing isn't such a thing anymore. And I've often thought about like, why a bear? Like, why was that? Because that goes back a long ways. Like you can read these old time books and children have teddy bears. And I think it's for that reason. There's a kind of grounding, there's a connectedness, there's a safety in that kind of connection to the earth. And a lot of cultures, pre-Christian cultures, saw the bear as a symbol of, it was the guardian of the forest. It was a symbol of connectedness to the land. And I don't know if that's why the teddy bear was a thing, but I think there's something there, at least for me, that makes sense. And that the title of that piece is Guardian of Red Earth. And no, it's not. The title of that piece is Red Earth Guardian. And my name is Adam. And Adam, when you look at the original meaning of the word, it means man of red earth. And so I was tying together the themes of connectedness to the earth, connectedness to your ancestors, a sense of grounding and connection with everything around you, and the peace and safety that comes with that. The first thing that comes to mind is it really clarified my relationship with death. I went to the eye doctor. I was having visual field distortions. My peripheral vision was pretty much shot. It had originally been thought to be just chronic dry eye, and eventually it got to the point where that's not it. There's something else that needs to be looked at here. And the eye doctor said, you need to go to the ER. So I go to the ER. I get an MRI done. And on the first MRI, they can see that there's something in the middle of my head. They don't know what it is. Could be a tumor, could be an aneurysm. And so they have to do a second MRI. And these two MRIs were 45 minutes or an hour apart. And in that 45 minutes to an hour, my mind just went through everything, every possible scenario, every possible outcome. And as I'm laying there getting the second MRI, I'm faced with this could be the end of my life. Am I satisfied with what I've done? Did I love enough? Did I adequately express myself to my loved ones, to my community, to whatever, to whoever? And that was a gift. It seems strange to say it that way, but it's a gift to come to terms with your own mortality. And it gives you a kind of clarity of what your priorities are, what you've done well, what your shortcomings are, what you can do more of. And that has really carried forward into my life now post, thankfully, a successful surgery.
Did you get back your vision?
mostly. It's not 100%. It's much improved. I actually just had an appointment with my neuro-ophthalmologist last week, and there's been improvement since surgery. So I don't think it'll ever be 100%, but there's been an incredible improvement. I was just driving home from the hospital after being in the hospital for a week. I was in tears, just how clearly it was after there was a big winter storm last January. And so everything was just covered with piles of snow, and just like the sparkling of the snow, and just how clear and crisp everything was. It was overwhelming, like how I could just see it all again. I pretty much knew right away. And in many ways that dream was it was clearly exactly what I needed, because through that process from diagnosis to surgery and through recovery, I had a sense of peace. Like I knew there was something about this that, for better or worse, was a part of my journey. And upon recalling that dream, that night of diagnosis was a whirlwind, and the only thing you're thinking about is the thing that's staring you in the face. But after that, after I was able to take that blow and kind of think through it all, I was at peace. I felt that I was going to be in the right hands. It was going to be okay. It wasn't the end. I couldn't know that for sure, but I did feel a sense of calm going through that, up to surgery and through recovery. So the lion started as a dream. And the dream that I had, I was sitting on the couch in my parents' home, the home I grew up in. And in this dream, I'm sitting on the couch, and there's a lion laying on the couch next to me, and it has its head in my lap, and I'm stroking its mane. And then the dream transitions, and it's dark outside, and like you would have to take a dog out one more time before they go to bed, I have a lion that I have to take out, and I have a lioness who's sleeping in the basement, and I have to take them out to go to the bathroom before I go to bed. And I'm getting ready to take them outside, and they have their leashes. And I'm feeling tremendous anxiety that these lions could take off, and I would have no control, and we'd have these two lions loose in the neighborhood. And this dream was so vivid and so clear. I was just found myself just thinking about it and trying to understand what it was. Because in my experience, the dreams that I'm able to track, if I am thoughtful about it, I can find some meaning in them that is relevant to something in my life. But I couldn't figure this one out. And so I just happened to share it with my brother. And my brother says, okay, I gifted you a tarot deck a while back. And I'm not really a tarot person. I now understand that there's sort of a narrative within tarot about like the human journey, about growth that we go through if you lay the cards out chronologically. And so I took it out, and he said, all right, you're going to pull out two cards. Pull out the Strength card and pull out the Chariot. And the Strength card it depicts a lady, and she's stroking a lion's mane. And the theme of the card is you have a lot of strength within you that if you tap into it, it can get you through anything that life offers you. And the Chariot card depicts a figure standing in a chariot with two, I don't remember if they're lions, or I think they might be lions or sphinxes or something in front of the chariot, but there's no reins to hold on to these creatures. And these creatures are going to go where they're going to go. And the theme is life is going to lead you places that you don't anticipate, you don't plan, maybe you don't want to go. But if you have faith in the road in front of you, and if you have that strength within you to take on what's ahead, it's going to be okay. I think it's very empowering to create, whatever that means for anybody. Creativity comes in many forms, and people express themselves creatively in a plethora of ways. But I think through the use of color, I felt I was learning about myself, and I was interacting with the world differently. I was noticing things in a different way. I was appreciating color and form and light and shadow around me in the world in a way that I was kind of asleep to before I started with this. Rather than choosing a subject that I thought was visually compelling, or, it had some sort of visual story to tell just with the way the animal looks, I was looking more towards my relationship with the subject, or what the subject says about me, or something I'm experiencing, something happening in the world. In what way can this animal connect with the world or people in a way that has sort of a mythological flavor, or has an expressive flavor of an internal process or something of that nature. I experimented when I was getting started out with acrylic, with oil, with watercolor. And what I liked about acrylics is there's such a range of products, like working with different mediums. There's so much you can do with it now that for me, it just felt like the creative possibilities were so much broader. And I also like the fact that they dry quickly. I could just move from layer to layer. I didn't like working wet and wet with oil. I found that I would lose things that I liked the way they were by trying to add little details. And so acrylic just matched the way that I wanted to work with paint. Yeah, so the golden-headed lion tamarin, I titled this piece Fire Elemental because this monkey is really striking. I worked with this species when I was at the zoo. And so most of their body is black, just a real dark black color. But their mane has this spectacular fiery coloration. And it's not really understood why they have those colors, because it really stands out. In a jungle full of predators, this is a small monkey, there's several predators they have to watch out for at any given moment. And this really makes them stand out, especially the contrast on that black hair. Because a lot of animals, they're colorblind or they have weak color vision. So the color itself isn't the detriment, but the contrast is really makes them stand out. And this ties into fire, I think, because fire is so bold. Fire is fearless. Fire is consuming. It's uncontained. And this monkey, despite the dangers of being a small primate in the rainforest, has this coloration. It's a declaration. It's a statement of fearlessness. And I don't know, it just really speaks to me that way. And working with these animals, they have so much personality. Their vocalizations are really incredible. This high-pitched chattering, these different calls they do. They really have quite a presence. I would say the biggest thing is just art and creating has given me a path towards understanding myself better. And through understanding myself better, I have found that I feel I've come to, not that I've arrived, I think this is a process through life, but I think that art is a vehicle towards experiencing and pursuing wholeness. And I think that's definitely been true for me in a number of the themes that I explore with my work. I have mostly been doing art fairs, and if there's one thing I haven't done very well, it's connecting with the creative community outside of the art fair world. That I've kind of put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, and it's something I'd like to fix. And part of doing this submission that I did to the Layered Onion was one of the first steps, I think, in me trying to branch out and make connections and experience more of what the Madison art world has to offer. I don't know. I don't know that I have a good sense for that as a specific critique. I feel very lucky to have the support of the buyers that I've had, and I've made a number of wonderful connections at art fairs in the area. At the same time, it is very difficult to make a living as an artist. I don't often see people looking at my prices and scoff at it, but it's happened. You know, I've experienced that, and despite those scoffs, like those prices still aren't to a place where I would be living a reasonable lifestyle on just that income. And so I understand. I see it both ways. I don't know. It's certainly, I spend a lot more time as an artist doing things that aren't art than I could ever have imagined that I would. It's you know, you're as an artist, you're a small business in one person doing everything, and having two small children, it's unbelievable how much time some of these smaller things can consume just to be able to put my foot forward, to be able to put my art into the world. And yeah, I think I would tell myself that you're passionate about a lot of things. Don't give that up. Pursue that. You know, I've had a very unorthodox career path. I started out wanting to be a high school biology teacher. I got my zoology degree and my teaching license. I ended up as a zookeeper. That's not something I ever would have dared to dream as a kid. That would have been a dream job that I wouldn't have thought I could attain. And I stumbled into it in a sense. Same thing with being an artist. I gave up drawing when I was a kid because I thought I wasn't good enough. I saw what other people were making and said, I don't measure up. And I think art is, you know, that line of thinking, the not measuring up or comparing yourself to others, is the thing that kills art. For me, art is finding what's in your soul. And that's harder than it sounds. Like, that takes a lot of work to unpack that. At least it has for me. Finding that and bringing it forward in your life and putting it out in the world. And I think anybody can do that. 10-year-old me could do that, even though he didn't believe he could. You can find me at Adam Pankratz Art on Instagram and Facebook. My website is www.adampankratz.com. And I will be at a number of art fairs in the area and around the state. I'll be at Art Fair on the Square in July. I will be at the Agora Art Fair in Fitchburg in August, as well as the Paoli show. It'll be my first time doing that one. And in November, I will be at the Winter Art Fair off the Square, as well as the Wausau Festival of Arts, Appleton's Art in the Park, and a few other shows around the state. I'm Adam Pankratz. I'm a painter working with acrylic paint, and this was The Layered Onion.